So welcome to everyone again. Thank you for coming to Electronic City. I know some of you have come from outside. Students who've come to attend a workshop this morning, welcome to you all, a special welcome. And the media guests as well, and Infosians who are here to listen to the announcement of the Infosys Prize winners. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I would like to welcome, my name is Bhavna Mehra. I'm General Manager of the Infosys Science Foundation. And I would like to welcome on behalf of the trustees of the foundation, the management of Infosys, everybody who's here today. And with us today are the trustees of the Infosys Science Foundation, Mr. Shibulal, who is also the president this year, Mr. Murthy, Mr. Narayana Murthy, Mr. Nandan Nilekani, Mr. K. Dinesh, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, Mr. Srinath Patni, and Mr. Mohandas Pai, who will be joining us on video conference. That makes a complete set of all 7 of our trustees. We're very happy to have them here today. So thank you for being here. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Shibulal to deliver his opening address.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Esteemed guests, trustees, members of the media, my young friends from different schools in Bangalore, Infosys, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. It is my privilege to welcome you all to the presentation ceremony of Infosys Prize, the announcement ceremony of the Infosys Prize. The year 2019 has seen some interesting developments in the field of science. In April, Event Horizon Telescope published the first ever image of the black hole in galaxy MESR 87. Prior to this, though we have been able to confirm the existence of black holes by measuring motions of individual stars orbiting them, actually, getting images of this light-eliminating phenomena proved difficult. Researchers did it by using a large number of radio telescopes to simultaneously measure the same objects from a wide range of locations and then piecing them together to get an overall picture. Also, in 2019, scientists are creating life-changing new cancer treatments through the concepts of joint therapy and engineered T cells. With a near daily discovery of new immunotherapeutic targets and biomarkers, it is the hope that effective therapies will soon exist for all tumor profiles. Though we may have seen missions akin to the sleek automobiles from our favorite sci-fi movies, we can expect to see development towards cars that don't need roads. For example, the Liberty from Dutch company IV, which uses a dual propulsion drivetrain, allowing the vehicle to drive as well as to fly. Closer to home also, new things have been happening. ISRO almost pulled off the highly complex mission Chandrayaan-2, but for the last minute snag. This mission was a significant technological leap compared to the previous missions of ISRO. All was not lost as the orbiter has been correctly placed, raising the hopes for successfully landing the next Vikram lander for the next attempt. Now, the Infosys Science Foundation was set up with a vision to inspire, recognize, and reward world-class research and science related to India. The Infosys Science Prize consists of a monetary award of $100,000, which is tax-free in India. The Infosys Prize honors scholars who have made outstanding contribution across 6 categories in the field of engineering and computer science, humanities, life sciences, mathematical science, physical science, and social sciences. Now, in our 11th year, we would have honored 70+ winners in all. The Infosys laureates engage with society through lectures and interactions across the country. The vision is to promote a scientific temperament showcase research as a career avenue, and to create awareness regarding path-breaking research happening across fields. We hope to create a generation of students who can think out of the box and find solutions to problems that affect human beings. Over the last 11 years, our eminent jury has selected winners with immense talent and potential. Many of these Infosys Prize winners have gone on to receive prestigious international awards and positions of great responsibility. Among these are field medalists, advisors to national government, and Nobel laureates. They have done meaningful work that has the potential to impact the whole humankind. Their work has application across healthcare, climate change, thinking in ethics, and understanding migration. We are now poised at the beginning of the next wonderful decade and look forward to shining the spotlight on many more brilliant researchers and scientists. Our winners this year are doing great work in their respective areas. Let me congratulate them in advance for winning the Infosys Science Prize. Once again, welcome to all of you and thank you.
Thank you so much, Shibu. It is evident just how much research matters in our daily lives when it is applied. But what about fundamental or basic research? How many of us here believe it needs to be supported and encouraged with resources and time, even though no immediate benefits are perceived? I would like to invite Mr. Narayan Murthy to deliver a special address on his thoughts on why India needs fundamental science and research. Mr. Murthy?
The objectives of a university are twofold. First is guiding students to reach the frontiers of knowledge in any branch of science, engineering, medicine, law, humanities, social sciences, and arts through teaching and practice. Some of these successful students will go to the real world and apply the knowledge acquired in their education at the university to make life better for the society. Some will take the second path, which is to focus on what the Germans call Wissenschaft, or pure learning, that is, knowledge for its own sake. Some of you will wonder why anybody should bother about knowledge for knowledge's sake. Why should we worry about this esoteric field in a poor country like India? Let me answer this question. Science is about unraveling the secrets of nature and understanding reality. For example, physics answers questions like why the sky is blue, why an apple falls, why the earth rotates around the sun, why a rocket roars into space, why heat goes only from a hot body to a cold body and not vice versa, why sound becomes less intense as the car moves away from us, and why we see a rainbow. Engineering, on the other hand, is about using the power of science to remove constraints of nature and make life more comfortable for human beings. Let me remind you the words of Edward Teller that the science of today is the technology of tomorrow. For those of you who are somewhat skeptical about the usefulness of fundamental research, let me give you some examples of how they can be very useful. Quantum theory, invented by Max Planck, Albert Einstein, Niels Bohr, Max Born, Paul Dirac, Vernon Heisenberg, Wolfgang Pauli, Erwin Schrödinger, John Bell, John Clauser, and Richard Feynman, is what has made transistors, lasers, nuclear energy, quantum computing, and DVDs possible today. A recent example of superb engineering based on fundamental research in quantum theory is Google's quantum chip, Sycamore. Sycamore, with 53 QU bits, solved a computing problem in 200 seconds, just almost 3 minutes, that was estimated to take Summit, a supercomputer at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, 10,000 years. With quantum bits in the future, we are likely to have hacker-free quantum internet. Hurrah for quantum theory. The theory of relativity, enunciated and improved by Albert Einstein in 1905 and 1915, is what makes today's global positioning systems accurate. Without this celebrated theory, our GPSs would be off by 7 miles. There would be no nuclear energy and no PET scanners that use Einstein's famous equation equal to mc squared for their working. Without the theoretical work of Kurt Gödel, Alonzo Church, Alan Turing, and John von Neumann, we would not have had computers that are so ubiquitous and so critical to our existence today. Even Infosys would not exist without that work. Without the celebrated fundamental research of James Maxwell and Claude Shannon, our world would be a dark and disconnected place. For those of you interested more in reading about how fundamental research could be useful, I would suggest you read the book, The Usefulness of Useless Knowledge by Robert Flexner, the founder of the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton, with a companion essay by my friend Robert Digraph, the current director of that institute. This book is about the power of fundamental research in making life better for humanity. Therefore, we have to overcome our skepticism about the so-called useless knowledge and start helping our youngsters pursue fundamental research enthusiastically. It is perhaps appropriate that we follow the British chemist and Nobel laureate George Porter, who called such research not yet applied research. We want our youngsters to understand that these most famous scientific theories were enunciated when these extraordinary scientists tried to understand the fundamental nature of reality. Why is it important for our youngsters to pursue fundamental research? Just look around this hall and you get the answer. The electric bulb, fan, air conditioner, projector, microphone, and laptop, they all came from fundamental research and were all invented outside India. I watched TV in my hotel room in Delhi. I took a flight to come from Delhi to Bangalore, called my secretary on my mobile phone, came in a car from my home to this event, and I listened to FM in the car. Every one of these came from fundamental research in science and its applications by engineers. Our youth deserve to invent some important stuff valuable to India and the world so that they are recognized and respected. Else, what is our contribution to this world as a nation of 1.25 billion people? Look at our own history of advances in science and mathematics. There were many Indian scientists and mathematicians who did earth-shaking work during the golden period of science and mathematics in India from 180 to 1480. The scientists and mathematicians of the golden era of Indian science and mathematics were some of the deepest and most virginal thinkers of the world of that period. Aryabhatta, who lived from 476 AD to 550 AD, produced Aryabhatiya, his most influential work of that time, and introduced ideas on planetary motion, quadratic, simultaneous, and indeterminate equations, areas of triangles, shape of the earth, and cause of day and night. Brahmagupta, who lived from 598 AD to 665 AD, enunciated the rules to compute with zero, to compute squares and cubes of integers, and rules for dealing with fractions, which were revolutionary ideas at that time. Bhaskaracharya of Bijapur, who lived from 1114 AD to 1185 AD, whose work in calculus predates those of Newton and Leibniz, is another illustrious role model for our children. Madhava from Kerala, who lived from 1340 AD to 1425 AD, demonstrated the power of his virginal thinking in using infinite series for approximate computation of some trigonometric functions. The conclusion, my young friends, is that our youth is capable of original thinking if we create an environment that encourages such adventures of mind. There are even more important reasons why our youngsters have to be encouraged and equipped to become contributors to solving huge problems that confront us every day. India probably has more problems facing its citizens than any other country in the world. Our huge population is a big bottleneck for providing our children with basic education, healthcare, nutrition, and shelter. What is the solution? I believe that we can find appropriate solutions to our problems if we educate our youth to think independently, to use research and its applications to find scientific and technological solutions to our problems. That requires our country to provide full freedom of inquiry and imagination to our youngsters that enter the portals of our higher educational and research institutions. These youngsters come in as intelligent, curious, enthusiastic, and energetic young men and young women. And they have to be nurtured to live as confident, knowledgeable, daring, open-minded, and independent thinkers that will go after solutions to the problems of our country. Can our youngsters find a vaccine to chikungunya or dengue? Can they find an inexpensive solution to desalination of seawater? Can they improve the productivity of farmers by a factor of 5 or 10? Can they find an inexpensive solution for purification of our polluted air? Can they devise non-invasive tests for blood sugar measurement and for detecting certain kinds of cancers that require biopsy? Can they predict a drought or a flood a few months in advance to help our farmers? Can they find an inexpensive but strong concrete that will help us build roads that withstand wear and tear for 100 years? I have just mentioned a few of the plethora of problems that we face. If our youngsters can find solutions to these problems, then they would bring back pride to our people, to our country, and to our future generations, like the scientists, mathematicians, surgeons, and physicians of the golden period of Indian science did between 100 AD and 1400 AD. Can we hope that an Indian youngster educated and working in an Indian scientific research institution will make a mind-boggling discovery like the quantum theorists who enunciated that the very act of observing a system will influence what is being observed, and that the inherent nature of reality is fuzzy? Will one of our youngsters contribute to science like a little-known Irish theorist like John Bell and a graduate student like John Clauser, whose design of an experiment proved that Niels Bohr and the mathematics of quantum mechanics were right and that Albert Einstein was wrong? Can we produce right here in India scientists like C.V. Raman, Ashok Sen, and Satyendranath Bose? Can our youngsters educated entirely in India and doing research in India emulate Chandrasekhar, Hargobind Khurana, Venki Ramakrishnan, Amartya Sen, Abhijit Banerjee, Akshay Venkatesh, and Manjul Bhargav? What kind of research should our youngsters do? I want it to be an expression of an age as well as an influence operating upon both present and future, as Robert Flexner once said. I want India to be a place where discovery and invention happen every month. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murthy. Knowledge for its own sake is just knowledge that has not been applied. Indeed, thank you. I would like to invite Mr. S. Gopalakrishnan to share his perspectives on R&D in India.
Thank you, Bhavna and friends. And it's a privilege for me to address you today. Mr. Murthy talked about the needs, especially towards the end, he talked about the needs of an emerging country like India. We have more problems than solutions. And to me, what is even more interesting or important is that the solutions that already exist probably will not work in an economy in a country like India, or maybe even should not be even applied in a country like India. So for example, when you look at just automobiles, just cars for example, about 3.5% of Indians own cars. About 10% of Indians probably can afford to buy a car, and pretty soon maybe 20% of Indians will be able to buy a car. And of course, they will buy the latest and the greatest car. But then, is that the path that we need to take? Because already, with 3.5% of Indians owning cars, we can't drive on our roads, we're getting polluted to death, and this problem will get compounded as the number of cars will increase. So we need to look at, of course, new technology, but we also need to look at holistic solutions on designing cities. How do we create more public transportation and things like that? So there are significant number of problems that will require us to look at not just individual technologies. At the system level, we need to look at country level, we need to look at. And this problem will be compounded by the fact that we need to look at affordable solutions, right? So drinking water, for example. Can we make drinking water affordable to every, get drinking water reaching every citizen at an affordable price? We did it in telecom. Because smartphone prices have plummeted, we have one of the best networks, telecom networks in the world, and probably at the lowest possible cost. So we need to look at new solutions, we need to look at affordable solutions. Now when I discuss with researchers around the world, and when I pitch for collaborative research, and that's what I want to talk to you about, why India must collaborate and why rest of the world must collaborate with India. The reasons I put forward to them are, of course, one, we have problems that require new solutions. The solutions that have worked elsewhere are probably not the right solutions to be applied in the 21st century when countries like India are going to develop. Because if we do that, we will go through the problems that the rest of the world have faced, or the developing countries have faced. The challenges of inequality, the challenges of affordability, the challenges of inclusiveness, all of these problems we will go through also. So can we look at a different model and a different set of solutions? We have engineers, scientists who are trained in the best institutions around the world. Our own institution standards are increasing and improving. So we can actually contribute more scientists and engineers to solve problems that are global. So for example, one of the areas I'm supporting is cure for Alzheimer's. Now this is a global problem. So more people working on this problem means hopefully the problem will get solved faster. So India can contribute more resources. These resources typically are at lower cost because India will continue to be a lower cost economy for many years to come. So overall cost of the research as well as the solution comes down, and hence the solution will be affordable to more number of people. Just an example, today, one of the cures for many forms of cancer is immunotherapy. A course of treatment costs $200,000 to $600,000. Very small percentage of people, even in the most advanced economies, can afford this treatment. And definitely, very small percentage, probably a minuscule number of people can afford it in India. So it is possible to lower the cost of doing this research from India. The third point I present is data from India is not present in many of the databases, especially when you look at medical research and things like that. Do you know that the drugs that you take have been tested on Anglo-Saxon white male people? Many of the databases have representation of 10% of the world's population. 90% of the world's population are not represented in many of the databases. And when you go to solutions that are based on what are some of the new areas in medicine, personalized medicine, etc., your data becomes very important. At least the population data becomes very important. Most of the DNA sequencing databases in the world have, as I said, white Anglo-Saxon male people represented. Asians are not represented, Indians are not represented, Chinese are not represented. If Indians are represented, they are Indians who are living in some other locations. New insights can happen with diversity of culture and diversity of thought and diversity of background and diversity of data. That's again very, very important. Will the solutions that work for, let's say, a particular set of people in another country, will it work for people in India? We need to look at that and think globally when you look at these things. And as I said, these solutions will have to be modified. So this gives new opportunities for us to innovate and new opportunities for us to push ourselves to find better solutions. Now let me just, because I have now limited time, talk about some of the things that we need to do and why I passionately pitch for this among even my peers, my fellow industrialists, etc. Today, India spends 0.6% to 0.7% of GDP on research. Out of this, 0.6% is spent by the government, and private sector spends, private sector means private sources, philanthropy, everything, spends 0.1% on research. A developed country, like US spends about 3%, Korea spends, I think, 4%, China spends 4 to 5%. We have to increase the overall percentage of spending on research. And government has made a commitment. They have increased their spending to, or they're planning to increase it to 1%, but the private sector and philanthropy have to go significantly above what they're doing today because they're only spending 0.1%. To go to 1.5%, because half, let's say, by private sources, will require us to increase the spending by 15 times. The wealth is there. We need to spend that money. Another point, just look at the ecosystem that exists in Bangalore. The new trend in Bangalore is all the R&D facilities of multinational corporations are here. But how much interaction happens among these companies, amongst industry? Is there a platform for them to come together and discuss these things? Research, I'm talking about research now. And is there a platform for them to now collaborate with our academic and research institutions? They seem to be in silos. And within our academic institutions, only recently we have started doing interdisciplinary work. Otherwise, physics will not talk to biology. Of course, many IITs didn't have biology at all, because it was felt that that's a different science. Now, if you want to bring a medical college into an IIT, then we have to go to a completely separate process, because that comes under Ministry of Health, which is another problem, another challenge that we have. We have to break these down, and we have to bring people together. We have to create platforms which allows us to look at multidisciplinary research and things like that. The last point I want to make is about translation. Now, we are not spending enough on research. On translation, we are spending very, very little because industry is not involved with academic institutions. So the translational work, of course, the venture community will not fund translational work because they will fund only work that has been proven. The proof of concept should be available. But who pays for the proof of concept to be created? I think industry will have to come forward for the proof of concept to be created, and that's another thing that we need to do. In the last 5 years, certain aspects of this I've been trying to address in my own way, in my own little way, but I thought I will use this platform to pitch for more participation, more money, and more support for research in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was very enlightening to hear your perspectives and your experiences in R&D in India. Between you and Mr. Murthy, I think you've thrown a challenge to the younger people here, especially students and Infosians and everyone else really, into how we can make research in India something that's vibrant and a norm. The excellent talent and potential that the Infosys Prize rewards each year is chosen by a panel chaired by 6 very distinguished jurors. I would like to call upon Mr. Dinesh to introduce you to those 6 jury chairs. Mr. Dinesh.
First of all, thank you all for being here once again. And it is always a pleasure for me to be here once a year and be part of this kind of a gathering. What started 11 years back, Infosys Prize, today it has grown. The very fact that close to 700 people are there and we are doing in a big conference hall here gives me hope that science has a lot of future for India that Murthy talked about, and how research issues that India needs to tackle. Chris has given some thoughts there. So all of that, with such youngsters being here, gives me a lot of hope that all those dreams that we thought of would be set up by doing the Science Prize will come true, because it is the youngsters who will carry these things to the next level. But to make this function, as Bhavana has said very clearly, there are 6 jury chairs. Every year, they select the best of the best among the scientists and researchers. And before we announce their names, we should introduce the jury chairs who make it possible. That is my privilege to do that. I'm honored to do that. So the jury chairs that have selected the 6 winners of the 2009 prize are most distinguished set of individuals, and I would like to introduce them briefly only, because I have a very limited time, though their accomplishments are many. Let me start with engineering and computer science. Professor Arvind is a renowned computer scientist who chairs the jury for engineering and computer science category. He is Johnson Professor of Computer Science and Engineering at MIT, Boston. His work was instrumental in development of dynamic data flow architectures and associated parallel programming languages. He has co-founded 2 companies, BlueSpec Inc. and Sandburst, and also developed the BlueSpec language for the synthesis and verification of large digital systems. He is the recipient of several awards, including IEEE Charles Babbage Outstanding Award, Scientist Award in 1994 itself. Distinguished Alumnus Award from IIT Kanpur, where from he graduated, and also University of Minnesota Outstanding Achievement Award, University in 2008 itself, IEEE Computer Society Harry H. Good Memorial Award 2012. Now let me get into the next distinguished gentleman, humanities category. Professor Akhil Bilgami is the jury chair for the humanities category, and the Sidney Morgan Besser Professor of Philosophy and Professor Committee on Global Thought at Columbia University. He teaches philosophy of mind and language, politics and rationality, and religion and politics in a global context. He has authored several books and is currently writing a book on Gandhi's philosophy, as well as a longer work on the nature of practical reason. He was elected Cullman Fellow at New York Public Library, held the Radhakrishnan Chair in India, visiting professorships at Oxford University and Yale University, and has received fellowships and grants from the Mellon Foundation, Ford Foundation, National Endowment of the Humanities. He is also the President of the Trustees and Executive Director of the Journal of Philosophy. Next one is Life Sciences. Professor Mrigankasur, you are seeing his photograph in the end. He chairs the Life Sciences Prize and is the Newton Professor of Neurosciences at MIT. Professor Sur is a pioneer in studying the organization, plasticity, and dynamics of the brain's cerebral cortex using experimental and theoretical approaches. He was head of the MIT Department of Brain and Cognitive Sciences for 15 years. The Magan Institute for Brain Research, the Pickover Institute for Learning and Memory, and the Simon Center for Social Brain were founded under his leadership. Apart from being a recipient of numerous awards, he is an elected Fellow of the Royal Society UK, the US National Academy of Medicine, the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and the World Academy of Sciences, last but not the least, the Indian National Science Academy. Now, the Queen of Sciences, Mathematical Sciences. Professor Srinivasa Varadhan, who's there on the first photograph there, Srinivasa Varadhan chairs the panel that has chosen some brilliant mathematicians as laureates of the Infosys Prize, who later on went on to win the field. Two of them won the field medal in the last couple of years. He is Professor of Mathematics and Frank J. Gould Professor of Science at the Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences, New York University. Professor Varadhan's awards and honors include the National Medal of Science from US President Barack Obama, the highest honor bestowed by the United States government on scientists, engineers, and inventors. His numerous awards include the coveted Abel Prize, which is considered the equivalent of the Nobel Prize of Mathematics. As you all know, the Nobel Prize doesn't have mathematics. Now, next one is Physical Sciences. Professor Srinivas Kulkarni is the jury chair for the Infosys Prize in Physical Sciences. He is the George Ellery Hale Professor of Astronomy and Planetary Science at the California Institute of Technology, former director of the Caltech Optical Observatories. Professor Kulkarni's primary interests are the study of compact objects, neutron stars, gamma ray bursts, and the search for extrasolar planets through interferometric and adaptive techniques. Among his awards are the Alan T. Waterman Prize of the National Science Foundation, a Presidential Young Investigator Award from the NSF. Professor Kulkarni was elected a Fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, Fellow of the Royal Society of London, and Fellow of the National Academy of Sciences. In 2017, he won the Dan David Prize for his contribution to the emerging field of time domain astronomy. Last but not the least, the social sciences. Professor Kaushik Basu, who is on the photograph there on the last one. Professor Kaushik Basu, who chairs the Infosys Prize in Social Sciences, is the renowned professor of economics and the C. Marks Professor of International Studies at Cornell University in the US. Professor Basu is the former chief economist and senior vice president of World Bank. He also served as chief economic advisor to the government of India. He is the president of the International Economic Association. Professor Basu is a fellow of the Economic Society and received India's highest civil honor, the Padma Bhushan. I don't want to come in between you and the curiosity all of you have to know who the winners are. So these extraordinary scholars have selected the recipient of this year's Infosys Prize, and we are happy to announce their choices today. I congratulate all the winners in advance and invite all of you to congratulate them as well by visiting the Science Foundation's website, infosissciencefoundation.com, and submitting a message for them. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dinesh, for introducing our very, very eminent jury chairs. And with that, as he said, we will commence the winner's announcement for the Infosys Prize 2019. Following each announcement by a trustee, we will hear a clip of the winner's first reaction on being told that they have won the prize, and then a warm message of congratulations from the jury chair to the winner. The wonderful jury chairs of the Infosys Prize made the time to record this and send it to us as video messages so we could play it here. So Mr. Mohandas Pai, who was supposed to join us on VC, is right here, and he will be commencing the winner's announcement by announcing the category Social Sciences 2019. Mr. Pai, over to you.
Thank you, Bhavna. The Infosys Prize 2019 for Social Sciences is awarded to Professor Anand Pandian, Professor, Department of Anthropology, Krieger School of Arts and Science, Johns Hopkins University.
And you can read the citation on the screen that continues to tell you why Professor Pandian won this prize, and this is what he had to say when we called him.
I congratulate Professor Anand Pandian for winning the Infosys Prize for Social Sciences for the year 2019. Your work has pushed the frontiers of anthropology, and by your attention to political economy and ecology, in many ways it has pushed the frontiers of the social sciences. Your work on caste-based identities, weaving in the moral and ethical dimensions of life, is extremely important for India and for the world. I hope that your work and the mastery of your craftsmanship will inspire new generations of researchers to look into these important problems of our contemporary life and to continue to push the frontiers of research further out. Congratulations, Anand Pandian.
And this is how Professor Pandian accepted the congratulations.
I am completely stunned and humbled by this extraordinary and completely unexpected honor. The work that I do, the work that all of us do as social scientists and as writers is often such private work. It is gratifying enough when someone reads something that you've written and simply writes as a reader and says, that work moved me. But above and beyond that kind of reaction, to receive news like this is really such a tremendous and unexpected honor, and I'd be glad to continue to do my part. And I just want to thank the jury, distinguished researchers, and public intellectuals for their support and faith in the work that I've been doing.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Pai, for joining us over video conference and making the time to be present virtually. Thank you. The Infosys Prize in the Humanities receives nominations in areas like history, Legal Studies, Literary Studies, and Philosophy, and is chaired by Professor Akhil Bilgrami. I request Mr. Narayan Murthy to announce the winner in this category.
The Infosys Prize 2019 for Humanities is awarded to Professor Manu Devadevan, Assistant Professor, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Indian Institute of Technology, Mandi. Here is the citation.
I congratulate Professor Manu Devadevan for having won the Infosys Humanities Prize. You greatly deserve this prize for having deepened our understanding of the social and cultural history of South India in the pre-modern period, and for your remarkable revisions of the conventional wisdom of this history. I join the entire panel of jurors for the Infosys Humanities Prize in congratulating you warmly for this remarkable achievement.
That's news. Thank you. What a surprise. I don't quite know how to respond. It's of course a recognition, it's an honor, it's a tremendous piece of encouragement. But I must also admit that it is intimidating in certain ways, for it creates great expectations, you see, and one has to live up to it. I think I will. It's now my responsibility towards the members of the jury and the Infosys Science Foundation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. You made my day.
Thank you, Mr. Murthy. The next category that we will be announcing a prize in is the Life Sciences category. This receives nominations from scientists and researchers working in plant sciences and agriculture, medicine, physiology, biotechnology, etc., and is chaired by Professor Mriganka Sur. I request Mr. Nandan Nilekani to announce the name of the winner.
The Infosys Prize 2019 for Life Sciences is awarded to Manjula Reddy, Chief Scientist, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, Hyderabad. The citation is up there.
I congratulate Dr. Manjula Reddy for being the winner of the 2019 Infosys Prize in Life Sciences. Your work on the development and growth of cell wall in bacteria has really transformed the field. Your innovative experiments describing the first stages of cell growth are likely to lead to new antibiotics and address the growing concern about antibiotic resistance bacteria. On behalf of the jury in Life Sciences, I warmly congratulate you on being this year's award winner.
Thank you very much. I'm kind of honored, I feel, and privileged, kind of also overwhelmed. And the first thing which comes to my mind is my acknowledgement to my host institute, CCMB, which has given, kind of nurtured me all through, and also my PhD mentors and my colleagues who encouraged me all through, and then of course my students and the staff of my laboratory, which did almost all the work. Without them, I think nothing is possible. And of course, I am thankful to my family, my ever supportive husband and children, and my parents who are there.
Thank you, Nandan. And now coming to mathematics, which the category that accepts nominations in pure and applied mathematics as well as theoretical computer science. I'd request Mr. K. Dinesh to announce the winner of this category.
The Queen of Sciences, Mathematical Sciences, Infosys Prize 2019 for Mathematical Sciences is awarded to Professor Siddharth Mishra, Department of Mathematics, ETH, Zurich. The citation is there.
I want to congratulate Dr. Sid Mishra for being awarded the Infosys Prize in Mathematics this year. He has been recognized for his work in applied mathematics, particularly his contributions to devising numerical tools for solving problems in the real world.
I'm delighted, I'm thrilled. It's a very prestigious prize. It's a great honor. It's very unexpected. I would like to thank the jury, a very esteemed jury, particularly Professor Bharadhan, who chairs the jury, for selecting me for this very prestigious prize. The list of winners is really illustrious, and I'm actually delighted and humbled to belong to this, to receive this honor. And it's also a recognition not just of my work, but of all the people that have worked with me, that I've worked with, my teachers, particularly those from the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Bangalore. Also, I want to thank my family. They will be really delighted.
Thank you, Mr. Dinesh, and we're halfway there. I would request Chris Gopalakrishnan to announce the winner of the Infosys Prize in the Physical Sciences, which accepts nominations in chemistry, physics, geology, and ecology, broadly speaking.
The Infosys Prize 2019 for Physical Sciences is awarded to Professor G. Mukesh, Professor, Department of Inorganic and Physical Chemistry, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. You can read the...
Congratulations, Dr. Mukesh, on being awarded the 2019 Infosys Prize in Physical Sciences. Your work is fundamental and also has practical applications. With your command of chemistry, you're able to synthesize chemicals such as enzymes for biological use. At the same time, you also have developed a clever technique to transport these chemicals efficiently to specific sites. The application for activating thyroids is of considerable practical value, as an instance. Congratulations again, Dr. Mukesh.
We have Professor Mukesh amongst us, so let me ask him to come to the stage. Please.
Good morning to all of you, and I'm delighted to be here. And one of the best moments in life, and receiving the Infosys Prize 2019 in Physical Sciences. And I'm extremely grateful to the Infosys Science Foundation and the jury members for selecting me for this very, very prestigious award. And I have not prepared to speak here, and I just want to mention a few things about our research activities. And we are designing new compounds, new molecules that can regulate the biological systems in the cells. And preparing novel molecules, synthesizing, is not very difficult, but I think making molecules with a purpose and with a function and with the desired function in the human body is really challenging. And our group is working on making new molecules that have functions. And what we would like to do in the future is that using such molecules to regulate in our applications, we would like to regulate the cellular functions. These are small molecules, and we develop artificial enzymes that functions as enzymes in human body, and that has advantages, and delivering them into specific sites and regulating the systems and going from a specific target for treating diseases and going to much broader of a view of regulating the systems. And that's the heart of chemical biology now, and working at the interface of chemistry and biology. And I'm really grateful that Infosys Science Foundation decided to give award in the area of interface of chemistry and biology, and which is, in my opinion, very important. And the achievements, and I'm not sure whether I have achieved anything so far, and I should mention here is that I'm really overwhelmed by this award, coming from a small village of 20 houses, and coming from a farmer's family, and the parents never studied in school, and came to this level. I think I really, I don't know, something that drove me to this place. And my parents are no more, and my wife, and she's supporting me 15 years, taking care of things at home, and allowing me to work in the lab. And in the future, I owe this to my teachers, IIT Bombay, which laid the foundation for my development, which provided platform to learn things. And so we will be working on two areas. One is developing compounds that can regulate biological system under disease conditions. One disease that we are looking at is endothelial dysfunction, which is the beginning of heart attack. So people get endothelial dysfunction 5 to 10 years before they get heart attack. So we are trying to make small molecules and enzyme mimetics to regulate the biological system, the nitric oxide level in the blood, which can actually work, could be a treatment for this disease. The second area that we will be working on is developing compounds to treat stroke in neurodegeneration. As Mr. Gopalakrishnan mentioned about Alzheimer's disease, and we know that metal ions play a very important role, and when we say that iron, for example, put the iron rod outside in moisture, it gets rusted. And our human body has about 66 to 7 grams of iron. We have oxygen and water, but no rusting takes place. And it's amazing how human body controls this, and it goes dysregulated. For example, release of iron in brain lead to Alzheimer's disease and other diseases. So we would like to study the role of these trace metals, that is iron, selenium, and other trace metals, how they control the brain functions, and that's important for the function of the brain. And with this, I would like to also thank the Indian Institute of Science, in my opinion, the best institute in India to carry out cutting-edge research, and complete freedom to carry out the research that we want. And people don't believe if I say I'm doing such work in the Department of Inorganic and Physical Chemistry, and this is not possible in other institutions. And great support from the Institute and the Department of Inorganic and Physical Chemistry, all my colleagues. And finally, I would like to thank my students, and who put a lot of hard works, and I have a multidisciplinary students. I take students from both chemistry and biology and let them learn, and which I call it as intra-lab collaboration. And that is, in my opinion, it's very important. And then you go to the collaboration outside, and that becomes much more effective. And thank you once again for giving me this opportunity, and also bestowing me with this very, very prestigious award. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Mukesh. It was really interesting to hear about the real-world application and implications of your work. It sounds really, really important and meaningful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I would like to call upon Mr. Srinath Bhatni to announce the winner of the final category, Infosys Prize 2019 in Engineering and Computer Sciences, which accepts nominations from all branches of engineering and computer science.
Thank you, Bhavna. The Infosys Prize 2019 for Engineering and Computer Science is awarded to Professor Sunita Saravagi, Institute Chair Professor, Computer Science and Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai. That's what her citation.
Congratulations, Professor Sunita Sarawagi, for winning the Infosys Prize in Engineering and Computer Science. Your pioneering research in using machine learning to analyze and understand unstructured data makes it possible to use the wealth of information in the World Wide Web and other sources for the betterment of society and for creating new businesses. You richly deserve this award.
It's great. It's just absolutely beyond my expectation, and I thank Infosys and the committee for selecting me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatni. And with that, we conclude the announcement of the winners. They will all be, our 6 winners will all be felicitated by the jury chairs of their respective category, and also a very special guest of honor, someone who's been associated with the Infosys Science Foundation and Infosys Prize since inception. I'm talking about Nobel laureate and professor of economics and philosophy, Professor Amartya Sen. So he will be the guest of honor and will present their prizes on 7th January 2020 here in Bangalore. We'd now like to take a few questions. If anybody from the media or from among the students have a question, but the questions have to only be, should only pertain to the Infosys Prize and the Infosys Science Foundation, as well as research in India, of course. Please raise your hand if you want a mic and introduce yourself before you speak. Do we see anyone? Yeah, I think someone in the back row over there. Could you stand up, please? Is your microphone on? Can you just get another microphone, Tim, please?
Check. Hi, this is Rahul from ET Now, and my question is to any of the trustees who would want to take this. We've recently seen the government also expand the ambit of CSR spends to research efforts, be it in universities and otherwise. Do you really see that being a game changer? Of course, Chris did indicate that the government has been increasingly spending, but there are a lot of gaps that still have to be addressed. Thank you.
Yes, this will act as an incentive for industry to look at diverting a part of their CSR spending to research. In fact, I went further and said that out of the 2%, 1% should be spent on problems of today, and 1% should be spent on problems of tomorrow. So that if you set a guideline, then it's possible that more money will come into research. And as I said, the private sector and philanthropy have to spend more.
Hi, my name is Nandita. I'm an independent science journalist. I was very heartened to hear Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan talk about the need for diversity in thought and diversity of culture, background, and data. And I want to appreciate the Infosys Science Prize for being one of the few science prizes that have consistently had a more diverse-looking winner set. That said, I also want to ask you when you think the day will come that you will have a female jury chair.
So as you rightly said, I think we have a diverse set of winners. Not only from men and women, I think every sector of the society should be represented. Our numbers are quite, it's reflective of the environment because we have about 23% of our winners from women. Similarly, our jury members are also quite diverse. This year, actually, we have two women winners. I'm sure our jury chairs will also get diverse, become divergent over a period of time.
Just to add, 30% of the jury members are women this year.
I'm sure some of the students will have some questions too. I hope the science workshop was exciting for you this morning. And I think one of the students wants to ask a question. Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, I noticed that many of the people who have done a lot in research come from either the IITs or American universities. In your opinion, isn't this a severe limitation to the development that happens in India because there are only couple of IITs in the country?
Can you please repeat the question? Is it because the question was about the limited number of universities which are doing research? Is that the question?
If I can rephrase that, I think he's asking, we have only few institutions like IITs or IIC, but how can we get more research across other institutions? That's the question, I believe, right?
Correct.
Well, I think that is a much larger problem, a problem that the governments, both at the federal level and the state level, the universities and the industry, we all have to work together so that there is a sense of excellence aspired for amongst the myriad universities and second-tier institutions that exist in the country. That solution will not come from Infosys. After all, we are only trying to see who amongst the various candidates that we see is excellent in a certain area. So therefore, that is for another platform, that's for discussion at a different level. But I hope, given what Chris said and given what Rahul also spoke about, that more and more money will go into the second tier and the third tier institutions, and that there will be more and more people interested in research, in higher education, and their aspiration for excellence will indeed become better. And at that point of time, it will automatically happen.
I just want to clarify that it's not just a couple of IITs. For a long time, there were only 5 IITs, but in the last 10 years, there's been a significant expansion of IITs, IIT Gandhinagar, IIT Ropar, IIT Hyderabad, then Dharwad. And one of the winners is actually from IIT Mandi, which is one of the newer IITs. So there is a significant expansion of IITs, as well as the ICER, which are the scientific institutions have come up, and hopefully they will also produce winners in the coming years.
It was a good question. Any other questions from the students especially, but anyone else, you're welcome to.
Hi everybody, this is Hemadashini. I just want to add to whatever has been said here. I dream of a day when all institutions in India are at pars with the IITs of today. Most institutions, if not.
Thank you. Is there another question from among the students? I think there's one back there. Sorry. Yeah, please stand up.
Yes.
No. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Can we get a microphone to you first? One moment.
Thank you. My name is Ashwin. My question is to the professor who is working on molecular research. Sir, is there any research happening to avoid retinal degeneration?
Professor Mukesh, is that the question for Professor Mukesh?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, just a moment, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so can you just repeat the question, please?
Sir, I just wanted to know if there is any research happening on retinal degeneration, to stop retinal degeneration. So it's a medical condition of poor vision. So
Yes.
it is usually people will lose their vision in the middle age
Yeah.
because of retinal cell degeneration. So is there any research, or would you be interested to work on this area?
Yes, actually people are working on that, and some of the diseases, eye-related diseases, are also due to reactive oxygen species, and we call it as ROS. And recent research suggested that controlling this ROS, and as we know in human body, everything is balanced. And if excess of thyroid hormones lead to hyperthyroidism, lower amount lead to hypertension, hypotension. So all the cases, a perfect balance need to be maintained, and this reactive oxygen species also need to be maintained, and that's where there are groups working on developing compounds that can control this reactive oxygen species levels in the eyes to control such degeneration.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Mukesh. I think we have time for 2 more questions, if anyone has one. Yes, someone, please go ahead. Can we get a mic here, please? Behind you, there's a microphone, yeah, okay.
Namaskar, I am Dr. Gopal, Director of NIT Goa. I have been in the higher education for the last 34 years, sir. I belong to a village. One of the question which pinches me is that in India, if a boy wants to do engineering, there are 19 IITs, 31 NITs, ISR, more than 100 top institutes. But if a boy wants to pursue a science, there are very institutes. And we find that not even 1% of the students go for science higher studies by choice. Because they have been, by default, the parents want them to put engineering or medicine. Now, there should be one institute which gives a top class like IIT in science, economics, social sciences, so that the boys will not be seduced to go for engineering or medicine. I'm a professor of engineering, but with a pain I say, a boy has to join by choice, not by default.
Good observation, sir, thank you.
Well, first of all, there are these ISERs, not just 3. ISERs are there. I think there are 6, if I'm not wrong. So that number will expand as we move forward. And number 2, whether we like it or not, market forces play a very important role. And youngsters, every parent would want their children to get to an education that will provide them a reasonable quality of life. So therefore, what needs to be done is to ensure that scientists who work in laboratories and in educational institutions, they are also paid equally well as engineers in the private sector, at least in some band. Then automatically parents will encourage their children to get to science. But in spite of all of this, there is a certain percentage of youngsters who are very passionate about science, and they are pursuing science in these institutes that you and I spoke about.
Thank you. I think unless any of the students have a question, we will wrap up for now. And okay, there's one question, one last question.
Hello, I am Tanya from Rashtrotana. My question is for Mr. Murthy, sir. There's a lot of burden put on IIT workers, like the sector, people work under them. How can the company take actions to reduce the burden put on them as it's increasing by the day?
No, I think as Bhavna right in the beginning spoke, this platform is primarily about Infosys Science Prize and perhaps questions which are peripherally related to it. So therefore, that's not a question that I certainly will be in a position to answer, and that's not, this probably is not even the occasion to look at that.
Okay, I think with that, we will wrap up the discussions for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and joining us to listen to the trustees announce the winners of the Infosys Prize 2019. I'd request the audience to stay seated just for one moment. I think some of the media people wanted to take a photo of the trustees. We'll just get a couple of them, if you would stand. And then once we leave, my colleague Nidhi has a couple of announcements to make. Thank you. Thank you all again.